Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus, and today we have a lot to cover. As the title suggests, we are going to be going over the NHL Conference Finals. That's right, the NHL is set. We have our Final Four. So in our first segment, we are going to go over Game 7 in Vancouver between the Canucks and the Oilers, talk about how that game went down and how we got our final team in the Final Four of Stanley Cup playoffs. Then we're going to move into Western Conference final predictions and Eastern Conference final predictions before we get into a big topic, and one that I want to delve into more in depth on once all the details come out. But we're going to do a brief overview today, give some basic thoughts on the NCAA's potential settlement in the House versus NCAA lawsuit. We'll talk about how that's affecting especially non-Power 5 conference teams who don't have a vote in it, is something that I really want to focus on. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up later on in the show, and then we're going to finish it off with some NFL news. A little recap of what's been going on. OTAs are beginning for a lot of teams, and there are players that aren't showing up, some potential contract talks, so we'll talk about all of that later on in the show, so if you're interested, stick around. But before we get into the hockey, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message will pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. We appreciate anything that you do give, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon to talk some sports with me. Once again, that link is GSMCPodcast.net. But like I was saying, we are going to start off our show here today talking a little bit of hockey. And we're going to go over Game 7. I love Game 7. I love the playoffs. This is my favorite time of the year to be covering all of the sports because you have two playoffs going on at once, and there's always something to watch on TV. But the Oilers and Connor McDavid are back in the conference finals, holding off a comeback attempt from the Vancouver Canucks, winning 3-2 in Game 7 on the road after falling down in the series 3-2, which, as everybody knows, the big statistic, when you lose that Game 5 and you're down 3-2, 80% of the time you lose. So they beat the odds. They're that 1 in 5 teams that ends up winning it, and the Oilers move on to face the Dallas Stars in the finals. But let's talk about this Game 7 a little bit, because when you talk about Oilers hockey, right, you talk about offense, you talk about Connor McDavid, you talk about Leon Draisaitl, you talk about Evander Kane, you talk about Zach Hyman, you talk about all these guys that, 50 goal scorers, 100-point seasons, that offense that just will not quit. You don't talk about defense, you don't talk about goaltending, but that was the story in Game 7. That was the story here in this Game 7 especially, and especially the defense. The goaltending from Stuart Skinner, he did his job. He let up 2 goals at the end. He did his job, but it really was the defense of the Oilers that I was really surprised by, and not really their defense, and it's a little bit of both. It's a lot of the defense from the Oilers that really did a great job and stepped up, but also the offense from the Canucks was just not aggressive. For 2 out of 3 periods in this game, they were just straight up not aggressive. You look at the box score, I believe they had like 4 shots with 10 minutes to go in the second, and then they started getting pucks on net, which is what you need. Wayne Gretzky said it. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And the Canucks were not taking shots, and the shots that they were taking, while they were good looks, the Oilers were blocking them. They got in front of pucks. They did a tremendous job last night blocking shots. You take a look at their blocked shots total. The defenseman, Darnell Nurse, had 4 blocked shots. Evan Bouchard had 2, one of them huge down the stretch. That's so many huge blocked shots from this team. It was very impressive, and even the forwards and centers got involved. Holloway had 2, Zach Hyman had 3 block shots, Connor McDavid had 3 block shots. A guy that, is one of the most skilled players in the history of hockey, getting his body on the line to win this crucial game 7. That's the mindset that you want to see as an Oilers fan. That's the mindset you want to see if you want them to keep moving on, get this playoff run going. Connor McDavid with 3 blocked shots is awesome. I love that. That get down there. Get messy. Protect the goalie. That's how you do it. And the Oilers did a great job last night of blocking shots. This is again the most blocked shots from them all series long. And for a team going up against a team like Vancouver, who that was their bread and butter in the first series against the Predators, the Nashville Predators. That's what they did. That's what both the Predators and the Canucks did. They both blocked a million shots. They really did. And they made it hard for pucks to get on net, and that made it low-scoring, low-shooting series. But with a team like the Oilers, they just dominated that game. They really seemed like they wanted it more. I don't know if the Canucks ran out of gas, or if they just gave up on this season, or if they just decided, hey, we got this in the bag, we don't need to go all out, we're saving up for Dallas. They just didn't come out with passion, with energy like the Oilers did. Like I said, they had less than 10 shots 30 minutes into this game. I believe they had less than 5. I don't have it up in front of me here, but they were not being aggressive offensively. They were being so passive. They were holding it. They were waiting for the best possible shot, when in hockey, the way that the puck goes and the way that you've been playing all series long, some of those huge goals that they've scored in this series, these big game winners, have come off of just getting bad angle shots on net, crashing the glass, getting those rebounds, getting those short tip-in goals that just happens when you get the puck on net. And we saw it happen in the third period. They were like, oh shoot, we're in trouble, we're down 3, we need to get going. They got pucks on net and they scored 2 goals in 4 minutes. That's what happens against a team in the Oilers that don't have a good defense. They really don't have a good defense. And they just didn't shoot the puck. I don't know what they said or what the game plan was, but whatever it was, it wasn't right. Congrats to the Oilers on making it back to the conference finals. First time since, I believe, 2021. McDavid has never won a cup. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in segment 2 when we break down the Western Conference Finals between the Oilers and the Dallas Stars. But I'm just disappointed in this Canucks team. All the flowers to this Oilers team. They came out on the road. They won the last 2 games, and they just were the better team, straight up. They played like they wanted it, and they won because they played like they wanted it. You're not going to win a playoff game as the Canucks by sitting back and being passive. And they should know that. And, the Canucks, we talk about them, and if you followed hockey for any amount of time in recent years, the Canucks every single offseason, every single preseason, are that teams that's primed to break out. They're primed to be the next thing. They're ready. They're so close. And then something happens. And this year they finally put it all together. And maybe we're seeing some of that inexperience show, because this is the first year that they've made the playoffs. They've been good with this core. It's injuries have derailed them a lot, and that didn't really happen this season. They got really lucky. They got good with injuries. I know Demko went down, but Shilas, outside of the second period in this game, and really the entirety of Game 6, he didn't really play very well, but he played incredible. For a guy that had started less than 10 games in his entire career, being thrown into a playoff series against one of the greatest skill players of all time in the NHL in Connor McDavid, an awesome sniper next to him in Leon Draisaitl, one of the best combined offensive teams that in recent memory, one of the best offensive juggernauts in forever in hockey. He did a really, really good job. Commendable is not good enough. He did a great job against maybe the toughest team to do a great job against. So I want to give Artur Shilos all the credit for being put in a really tough situation and taking his team to Game 7, to the brink of the conference finals. We talked about it, I believe, right after Game 5, or maybe right after Game 6. Uh, this series would have been over in 5 or 6 games without Shilos. Shilos made incredible saves to win games, I believe 2 and 3 down the stretch for the Canucks, or game 3 down the stretch. He made huge saves for them, especially at the horn. And it's just a shame. You wasted a great effort from what would have been a really inspiring story. A third string goaltender comes off the bench cold, and he was playing amazing hockey. It's a disappointing season for the Canucks, and hopefully they can reload and be ready for next year. But the Oilers are moving on to the Western Conference Finals against the Dallas Stars, and we will break down that series, all its ins and outs, give you a official GSMC Sports by GSMC podcast prediction here in coming up next in our segment 2. So stick around for that. We will be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.